If you're ready to hear how real business owners are leveraging the power of threads to build their business, I'm excited to share today's roundtable episode. We're talking about hands-on strategies and the things that they're actually doing today to drive interest in their business or to at least build community around the topics that they want to cover. This is basically your behind the scenes look on how things are going on Threads here, now, and today. Let's dive in. Is your current social media scheduling tool a little wah-wah? Then you should be using Sked Social. With unlimited collaborator access, streamlined approvals, and advanced auto posting that lets you post to any platform, including Threads, Sked Social offers you everything you need. What I love about them is their 24/7 support team from real live humans, not robots, and transparent scale-free pricing. Join Sked Social today and pay nothing until your contract ends with your current provider. Terms and conditions apply. Check the link in the show notes for details. Join Sked Social today. All right, to kick things off for today's episode, I want to introduce you to our lovely panelists, and I'm going to start with Melissa. Melissa, can you introduce yourself and your business?
Yes, thanks for having me. Melissa Litchfield here. I own and run a digital advertising company called Litchfield Media. We specialize in helping digital entrepreneurs and small business owners and service-based providers scale and grow their business with paid traffic and strategic funnels.
Beautiful. And I'm excited to chat with you, Melissa, about paid stuff because paid isn't yet on Threads, but I also love how you're using it. So
yeah, it's kind of a nice break, right?
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. Next up, we have Lennox. Lennox, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Of course, and thank you so much for having me, Drea. It's great to be here. I started the online journey in 2021. I was depressed studying law, so I decided to quit that the day I graduated and then started an online tutoring business. Long story short, I spent 3,000 hours and $80,000 building a course that nobody wanted. And then I started to write on Threads, and fast forward a year, I am the Threads guy and I've built a online community for Threads creators. And as of yesterday, it's just made it into the top 500 ranking on School. So that's been my 3-year journey.
Perfect. Thank you, Lennox. Yeah, that's how I found you, as the Threads guy, and then joined your Threads community and was like, let's dive deeper into this. So thank you so much for joining us today. Next up, we have Jereshia. Can you introduce yourself and your business?
Hello. Yeah, I'm Jereshia Hawk. I am a private business coach to multi-6 and 7-figure business owners. I've been in the entrepreneurial game for the past 8 years, primarily in, building group programs and teaching other people how to elevate the sophistication of their offers, really enhance their messaging to attract, more premium priced clients. So, and I know we'll talk about this a little bit in the episode, but yeah, I've been just focused primarily on private one-on-one mentorship at the moment. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here.
Thank you, Jereshia. I'm excited to chat with you today as well, because I've been stalking you online for years, years and years. And so I'm so interested to see how you applied that to Threads as well. So thank you so much for being here. Becky, over to you. Last but certainly not least, can you introduce yourself and your business?
Hi, I'm a business coach who works with founders who want to do business differently, meaning they want to check out of all of the toxic capitalist norms and operate their business in a way that really reflects their progressive people first values.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Becky. All right. So let's dive into my first question. I'm going to ask this question to all of you. So those of you listening, this is kind of the question for the table, if you will. And I'll start with Melissa. What is your approach to Threads?
Yeah. Okay. So I did a YouTube video on this, and I thought I would share my Threads posting strategy with your listeners. But my first tip, I guess, for myself is really to just give more engagement, right? Then focus on posting as much as I can. So what I've found over the past year of being on Threads is to engage more than you're actually posting on the app. So engagement, can look like adding your own thoughts, sharing your expertise to someone else's thread, hyping that person up, giving encouragement, agreeing, confirmation. You can also do this with a quote, right? Or repost other people's posts. But yeah, I think sharing a client win is like crucial throughout the week. It could just be like once a week. Sharing a meme, sharing something non-business related. I think that's how a lot of people kind of like were drawn to my account. I do attract other millennials that are in business like myself. So I think it's kind of true, right? When we say like you kind of attract who you are, right? Or the type of people that can relate to you. And then I like to also ask a question. So that's kind of my posting strategy. So I kind of switch up those 4 different themes and then focus on giving more engagement than expecting to receive it on my own posts.
Okay, so follow-up question to this. I'm curious how you're seeing the impact of those posts that aren't related to your business. How is that affecting your strategy overall?
Yeah, well, sometimes things go viral, and I feel like you have to protect your peace, right? Because some specific posts that are not business related and have no enrichment to constantly getting like, having to respond to everybody. I feel like it is draining sometimes when a post goes viral. So I personally ended up deleting something that was non-personal, but more often than not, though, the non-personal posts get the most engagement for me. I feel like others could probably relate, but anything like super like business related where it's like a call to action, to opt into something, obviously it doesn't get as much engagement as say like a tutorial or something that's funny and super relatable to like other entrepreneurs.
Do you feel like sharing this post that was personal? Like, yeah, I'm curious. What was give us the topic at least.
Oh gosh. Well, it was about, basically I have a rental property in Savannah, Georgia, and my tenants, after being in the house for about 4 weeks, they decided to break the lease because they broke up. So that created a lot of like opinions and thoughts, and I was getting called a lot of names. And I felt like I was checking like the engagement, right, on the app and responding to people my entire Sunday morning. And even my husband called me out and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "You're right. What am I doing?" I was like, this serves no purpose. And I thought it was just something like funny, maybe like others could relate to it or just like laugh at my situation. But at the end of the day, I was like, this is just not worth my peace anymore. So I deleted it. But yeah, it got over, 30,000 views in less than 24 hours. And I was just like, no, I think I'm going to kill it. So
yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. I am finding on Threads that the more like off the cuff personal style posts are working better, but then you're opening yourself up to the backlash of randoms, basically randoms. So yes. I love that you decided to protect your peace with that one and you found your boundaries there. Thank you so much, Melissa. Okay, next, Lennox, same question. What's your approach to Threads?
Okay, this is actually a great timing to ask the question because I shared my whole approach in the community a few days ago in my community, and it basically came down to I figured out that I'd spent over 1,000 hours analyzing Threads posts over the last year, which is ridiculous. But basically, over that time, I've realized that there are 3 different types of posts that I just like to post daily. And in terms of like that's the tactics, but the strategy, overarching strategy is it's just consistency and patience and time. And I know everyone who is on this show right now can understand that that's just how this game works. There aren't really any hacks. Like if you're patient and you do things consistently, that will work. So bearing that strategy in mind, the tactics of the post itself, I post 3 times a day. One post is like a one-liner, a heavy-hitting one-liner. The other post is a listicle, and the other post is a long form, or if it's not a long form, so multiple different threads in the one post, it will just be a more detailed, like singular post on Threads. And I found that the one-liners, they tend to get the most views, the lists tend to get the most likes, and the long form posts tend to get the most follows and conversions. And my observations around the long form posts is that those are really the key to like converting followers into like leads, like at the first step of your funnel. So that's the content side. But then, as we were just talking about, engagement is really, really important on Threads because that's how you build up these connections. And what I try to do there is I've got sort of a checklist, but it's just my like how to engage when you don't have time to checklist. And basically, I go through having a look at if someone's quoted a post of mine, I'm going to prioritize that because that's like a nice sign that they appreciate my content. Then a mention, I'll go through mentions and reply to those. Then I'll go through and try to reply to as many people as I can. And then I'll just go and like all the comments as well. And I will, if I can't reply to everyone, I'll go and like them. And I find that balance is a nice way to try and stay on top of it because, as we were just talking about, sometimes something goes viral and it can be a bit overwhelming. And then I'll also keep on top of that content with the short form posts, the one-liner, the list, and the long form. And that's my whole approach.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a lot of time to spend on Threads. Yeah. So what about the listeners who are listening who are like, okay, I don't have that much time. Which one of those would you prioritize? Like which style of post would you recommend or what have you found work for you?
If I had 30 minutes a day to dedicate to Threads, I would post a list. And then I would spend the other 20 minutes like going out and commenting on other people's posts and just to sort of build up some connections. And I think just those two things, a list post and going out and commenting on other people's posts in that 30-minute block a day will be pretty effective.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Lennox. I appreciate that. I do have follow-up questions, but we're going to come to them later in my round table here. Next up, we have Jereshia. What's your approach to Threads?
Yeah, when you asked me to come on, I was like, I don't have this hardcore strategy. I treat Threads like a playground. It's like I treat it like my girlfriend's group chat. It's, can be unhinged at times and I don't know, but I went back and like analyzed my posts because I was like, okay, let me actually be able to give your listeners something tangible. And I noticed like 3 common categories for what I typically post. I think first and foremost, like my emotional experience when I'm on the platform is very playful. Like it's very detached. And I think that's a really important like mindset or mentality of how I approach Threads. I'm not posting with any sort of expectation of any type of like outcome or performance. So like that is like first and foremost. So it feels very freeing in that sense. But the posts of mine that have gone like ham is like I was sharing a story about my 92-year-old grandmother in her request for me to do Instacart orders for her. And I noticed that like my expression of my identity is what has gone the most viral on Threads. So when I've take a kind of a self-inventory of just like what aspects of my identity align with, and I'm noticing some core alignment with my most ideal clients. It's like family is really important to my clients. My grandmother is my family. So like whenever I share her, people that post got maybe over like close to 100,000 reach, which is insane for my Threads, but it's like everybody has a story about like grandma, so like it was a really wholesome post. And also when I share like about my flowers, and I've been getting into flower arrangements and just sharing my hobby and showing the visual of it. So those are like identity based posts that really have a reflection of like who I am at my core. The other thing is just like I mentioned, like if I treat Threads like it's like my girlfriend's like a group chat, and me and my girlfriends are very much like, girl, you got this. We hyping each other up. We gassing each other up. And I look at my Threads, like my Thread posts that are very like encouraging or like, that one audacious girlfriend that you have in your circle or guy friend in your circle that's just like always, it's like the hype man posts. That's very much, again, who I am. So that personality gets showcased on Threads, and those posts have done really, really well as well. There's one in particular that recently got about like 50,000 reach, and then I shared it on Instagram, and it also performed incredibly well on Instagram as well. And then the last one is similar to Melissa, where I'm asking questions, but mine are the questions I typically ask are more of like how to, where I'm seeking the opinion of the community. So it could be something like it's a little bit more nuanced than what I could Google. And I would want like a human response versus me just asking Chat GPT, but really like asking the opinion of my audience for things that I'm actively searching and looking for. So before I go to Google, I'll like go ask my threads, and those tend to perform really well. So when you asked me to come on, I was like, let me go analyze my threads to actually see what my approach is, because it's not super mindful in the moment, but those have been the ones that have performed the best and also really cultivated this beautiful sense of community with new people that I, did not know, and also with my existing audience.
Yes, I love that. And I also noticed for my own threads, those identity posts do really well. And I think there's something about collective experiences that is amplified on threads when we can go, oh yeah, girl, me too, And so I observed that about your post as well. And I appreciate that. Thank you, Jereshia. Mm-hmm. Next up, Becky, what's your approach to threads?
Well, I'm glad Jereshia went before me to say, I don't really have one because I literally have zero strategy. There is no strategy. I don't think of it as business. It's been great for my business, but I don't think of it as business. It is literally just a place I go to say whatever the hell I want to say, whatever's on my mind. And it's working, but it's not because I was in any way intentional or strategic about it. I just share my real-time thoughts. They happen to be largely political because that's how I am and how I'm wired. And the people that I work with care about political issues. They care about the world. They care about things that are bigger than, that go beyond just business stuff. Ultimately, I'm a business coach, but I don't talk about business on threads at all. So strategy, I have none. My approach is just pure authenticity, I suppose would be how I would boil that down.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I like about your threads as well is that you're reflecting not just your thoughts, but like the thought process. And so there's been a few times where you've posted things about how you've changed your thoughts around something or how you've learned something new about, the world around you. And so I love that whole like reflective journey as well, because I feel like you're like a living example of how we should be like processing things anyways. We don't have all the answers to everything. And so that's what I love about like fangirling over your own threads as well. That's what I love about them, Becky.
Well, thanks.
Yes. Okay. We're going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we'll dive into the rest of these questions. Do you feel like you're in a love-hate relationship with Instagram? Well, I totally feel you. With all of the new features and updates and algorithm changes, it can feel like a lot to keep up with everything. That's why I'm excited to host the Instagram Bootcamp live this August 19th through the 22nd. Come and join me if you're ready to find your rhythm with Instagram again. I want to help you create content that works in tandem with the Instagram algorithm, not against it. So get ready to build some organic connections and reignite your passion for creating content again. If you're ready to fall back in love with Instagram, join me for the Instagram Bootcamp Live starting August 19th. I'll see you there. Welcome back. So I have a question for each of you about success on Threads. Next up, we have Lennox. How are you defining success on Threads?
I also had a follower count goal when I first started, because I started my account with 17 followers, and that was really my first foray into social media. And at the time, I had said, I was cyberbullied as a kid and I had this fear of posting online. So I thought my hypothesis was that I'm going to start posting a lot as some form of exposure therapy and have this arbitrary goal of 10,000 followers. And now I call them like Threads friends or friends. So that's been my sort of win in terms of like quantitative stuff. But it's sort of evolved since I first started, because now I found that actually having just people in my community helps me develop a connection far deeper than I otherwise could have on Threads, because I find there's only so far you can go just in the replies. But if you've got this sort of enclosed little corner of the internet where it feels kind of private, you're able to establish a much deeper connection. So now I'm looking at wins on Threads as more of a good long form post that can convert people into it's a free community. And then I can have deeper connections with them there through the calls and the Q&A sessions and all of that. So I think it's funny. We've both, like Melissa and I have both sort of said that success on Threads is kind of getting people off Threads and into more of our own world. And that's what it is for me in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you, Lennox. Next up, we have Jereshia. How are you defining success on Threads?
I mean, for me, it's just, does it still feel fun? That is like an internal checkpoint, because it's not a part of like a strategic overall business strategy. Like my short form and long form platforms are Instagram and podcasts. Threads is, like I said, just my playground. So does it feel fun? And as long as it does, I'll keep, treating it like my girlfriend's group chat. But I think one of the biggest markers of success has been probably just like the depth of community. Like when that post went viral about my grandma and me like sending her candy and chicken wings, like Instacart reached out and like sent her a bouquet of flowers and sent her, like bags of candy. She is stocked up she was like, I'm going to die with all this candy. I said, well, please don't eat it all, because she's been going through them so fast. But to me, that was a really like powerful moment. And I think like a way that I've always used social media primarily for business. Like ever since I even opened up my first Instagram account, it was for a business I had in college. And I think like seeing that and experiencing that, like the fun, but also like that, like real human fulfillment is how I kind of view success on Threads, is like quality of relationships that get started, those like precious moments that were totally unexpected, but it's because like the community rallied around a post and it caused it to create like a real human like impact. So for me, it's just really about fun, and the positive payoffs are really like those new relationships that get formed, and depth of those like human touch points that tend to happen.
Ah, that's so beautiful. I love that. And I love that Instacart actually sent her stuff.
I know. Because I didn't even tag them in the post. So I'm like, somehow they just saw it. Like they were never physically tagged. And I was bawling my eyes out on that Tuesday morning. I was like, I cannot believe this. And that was hard to explain to my grandma. Like, who sent all this stuff? I'm like, I don't know how to really fully explain this for you to get it, but it was a really beautiful moment.
Yeah, this is when the internet can come together for good. I love it. I love it. Thank you, Jereshia. Becky, over to you. How are you defining success on Threads?
I feel so like I don't even know how to answer all these questions, because it just feels so like not strategic. My answer is also like Jereshia, if it's fun. I've had more success on Threads than I ever have had success by the traditional term of like follower counts and stuff than I've ever had on any social media platform. I didn't expect it. Clearly, I didn't have a strategy. I still don't. So I went into it just like, this will be fun. For some reason, people followed. And now I guess for me, the things that feel good, that make me feel like it's still fun and that it feels successful, is when I have people say, thank you for saying that thing. I saw that thing you said, it made me feel less alone. Or like, you're saying the thing that I was afraid to say, those kinds of things. Because again, I'm talking about pretty like divisive things. And so when I have people, because believe me, I get lots and lots of the people who don't say that kind of thing. My replies are filled with lots of people calling me names and being incredibly unkind. And like, I deal with all of it. So hearing somebody say, thank you, like that means a lot to me, or your voice means something to me, that makes it all feel worthwhile. There's the other benefits of like getting subscribers out of my newsletter. That is the thing I look at, but I don't actually like track. Like it's not a metric I'm really tracking, but I do know that that's happening. I've also had sales because I sell feminist t-shirts, and I've had like, I can directly attribute thousands of dollars of income to Threads. But honestly, none of that is stuff I'm really tracking directly, because again, I'm not that strategic. So for me, it's more the feelings-based stuff is how I measure success.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I love, especially with the election coming up, I've been loving like the creative outlet with the t-shirts. I'm here for it. I love it. Okay. So now I have specific questions for each of you. I'm going to go back over to Melissa. One of the things that I've noticed that I just want to be nosy about is that you're taking your reels and you're repurposing them over to Threads. Oh, tell me about that strategy and how impactful it's been so far for you.
I personally love sharing my reels over to Threads. I don't do it all the time, but I love to share specifically the dancing ones, right? Because it shows my personality. It showcases like how I interact in real time with music and like relating that to business. So I feel like people get a kick out of it. Now, is this my biggest strategy in terms of reach and, impressions on Threads? It's not. It's more so, I find it more so like nurturing type of content, right? A type of like get to know me type of content versus like educational, although sometimes I do tie that into the dancing reels.
Yeah, that's always what I think when I see your reels. I'm like, oh, how fun. I wish I could dance. Because I love seeing it. And it's like the layers to your personality, which I like to see. Thank you so much, Melissa. Lennox, over to you. One of the things I noticed with your threads is that you use the topic tagging option quite a bit, which is Threads' version of a hashtag. What impact do you think that has had on your reach?
I think of the tags as more of a long-term game like SEO, but just for Threads. So the way I think about it is I want to try and dominate a sort of keyword so that when more and more people join the platform, because they seem to be joining by the millions every month now, that say if someone is interested in the keyword Threads growth, which is the one that I'm trying to sort of dominate, then they might go and search for some term that relates to that in the search bar, and hopefully my name just pops up across all of them, and then they sort of associate my name with that area of Threads, and they can see all of those tags. So in terms of the impact on reach, look, I don't think there's a positive or a negative in the short term. I haven't noticed one, except it might just be a nice little way to make a few keywords stand out because they go blue. But more long term, I think about it as though I'm kind of trying to boost my ranking in the search results in the search bar on Threads.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Threads uses that, because I actually like that they only allow one because of Instagram's hashtags strategy. I feel like we end up stuffing in a bunch of hashtags, and I've definitely fallen into that camp. And with Threads being only forced to choose one topic to kind of hyperlink and connect your post to, I actually think this is brilliant, and I hope other social platforms follow suit. I also like that you mentioned that word stands out because it's blue. Never made that connection before for me personally, and now I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, that does stand out. So interesting approach. Thank you, Lennox. Next question goes over to Jereshia. One of the things you mentioned earlier is that your thread strategy is like the girlfriend's group chat. And I noticed that you're very transparent about things going on in your life, your sabbatical, and things like that. How do you draw your boundaries when it comes to being transparent on Threads?
Yeah, this is like the big question that has been riding with me, I think, just in general on social media, because people see me as very transparent, but I see a distinction between transparency and privacy. And I think that what's been especially in this season, I took 7 months off from my business and had zero obligations outside of learn how to make pancakes, figure out how to make floral arrangements, rediscover myself and kind of just take care of myself. So as I've been coming back online, this was a very top of mind thought process. But when I think about privacy and as a distinction between transparency, I think about what breaches my sense of self-trust. If there's things that I'm still actively going through, healing, processing, that if there's any ounce of weight to it, and or if it's I don't have something to share the end of this sentence, I went through this and these are my reflections, or this is what I would keep in mind in the future. If I'm not at a point yet where I have those realizations, those stay in my journal and in my private life. Those don't ever end up on social media. And when it comes to transparency, I think about okay, I really believe in spiritual obedience, and I believe in the power of sharing a testimony. And how you showing your light can help somebody else tap in and find their own. So I'm always checking in, and that's an often thing. Sometimes I have vulnerability hangovers, not because I breached my own sense of self-trust, but because I was radically obedient to sharing my voice in a way that might have felt I might have been I don't know, maybe concerned about how others might perceive it, but I know that I was you're sharing this from a very wholehearted, wholesome place. And I feel spiritually called to say it. So like, I feel like there's like that dynamic that I check in when some people see, I shared recently on Threads, like I descaled my business, went through a divorce, took my sabbatical. And I debated a lot about whether or not I would ever mention my divorce publicly online. But I was like, Jereshia, you've been documenting your journey this entire time. It's been like over a year since it's happened. Like, I don't know. I feel it in my body that like, okay, it's time to say something. And I know that for me, particularly, my online platform is part of, at least in this season of my life and for the last 8 years, more than that, probably like the last like 12 years of my life. Like I know it's like a platform that is where my purpose is meant to be like displayed, and for me to be an answered prayer to somebody else. So like my obedience answers somebody else's prayer. And I believe in that reciprocity. So like when I think about transparency, I think about like, okay, like, is there like, as long as it doesn't breach my sense of self-trust and it doesn't violate like my humanness of like still processing something or whatever. And then I second guess check that against like, okay, what is true for my ideal clients and for my existing clients and for my audience? Like, what are the things that they are maybe possibly struggling with that there's cohesion between the two of us, and I can again create that bridge of connection. So that really is what influences it for me. Like if I know that me sharing this will build trust with my community, if I know me sharing this will like strengthen connection with my community, and will also show a layer of my humanity, like I'll bring some realness and some warmth to this like very digital screen based transaction. Like that's usually my gut check.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love the emphasis on the reflections piece. This is something that I'm constantly thinking about as well is, when do we share things online, especially those of us who are very public about the things that are happening in our lives? And then, how do we make sure to protect our own peace? And it sounds like you really have the boundaries in there between transparency and privacy. I appreciate that.
Can I add one other thing?
Yes.
The thing that I tell my private clients is that like every layer of your identity does not need to be monetized. And when we are personal brands, I think part of, and your business is dictated based off of like your intellectual property, your perspective. You being a public figure is part of your job description as a business owner. But I think that sometimes where, and I used to get muddled at this and I work with my clients on this too, is just like every layer of your identity does not need to be monetized. So identify which aspects of your identity you feel, comfortable, confident, and to share publicly, and which aspects don't you? Because every version of you, does not need to show up on a public permanent platform. And I feel like that might just be another lens or another way to kind of think through that too.
Yep. Love that. Thank you so much, Jereshia. Becky, over to you. One of the things I've noticed about your threads, which I feel like, as a fan, I've always mentioned I'm a Becky fangirl. You've had quite a number of posts take off. And when I look in the comments, I'm like, these comments would I would be crawling in bed crying because they've been mean. How are you dealing with the intimidating openness of being available to the public at large?
It's funny you should ask that because I'm literally in the muck of it at the moment that we're recording this. And I just had to put a little post up saying, all right, that's it, guys. You go ahead and just keep bickering amongst yourselves in my replies. I'm going to take some time away. See you later because it is a lot. And so I think when you are somebody who's willing to speak on tough topics, you have to know that you're going to be dealing with that. And so I don't think it's for everyone, for sure. And that's okay. Like, I think we all have to find our lane and the things that we feel like that we're comfortable with, that we're passionate about. But for me, because that is how I show up, like I know it and I have a pretty thick skin, so I can deal with a lot. But even that said, like eventually it adds up, and even the person with the thickest skin at some point after being called enough names or dealing with enough stuff, it wears you down. And so I take breaks, and I also am very public. There are times when I will say, you're being mean. Like, that's not very kind. Have you thought about the fact that I'm a real human on the other side of the screen? Because I think sometimes people forget that. So I will be really transparent about how people make me feel. Sometimes people like to use that to their advantage, and I just think, oh, that's sad for them, and fine. Also, I take breaks. I talk with community. I have like really wonderful people in my circle that I can turn to and say, this hurts, or these people are being unkind, or to also do that gut check. Did I go in the muck here? Did I do something wrong? Because I've done that, as you mentioned, like I have stepped in it over the last year and I've had to issue some public apologies. I'm always there for growth and learning. So I'm there to do that when I do. So like, I think having people that you can talk to one, just vent, but also do some of that gut check with, and then also like taking breaks, recognizing in yourself the signs of it's time to take a break, which I have gotten pretty good at being able to tell, like, when am I at a place that I need to say, okay, I'm stepping away for a while. Those are the things that help me.
I have a follow-up question to this. How do you know when you're ready to come back from a break?
I don't know. Let's be honest. The truth is, I can tell you all these, I can talk a really good game, but I stay longer than I should. I don't take as many breaks as I need to. Like, I just had a conversation with a good friend today about that. She's like, do you think maybe it's time to take a little break? And I'm like, yes, you're right. I should. And so I don't do enough and I go back too soon often, but I do try to look for like, when is my nervous system feeling more regulated again? So like right now I can feel my nervous system is getting dysregulated by what's happening in this very moment with me on Threads. And so that is the time when I'm like, okay, I'm feeling like heightened anxiety. I'm feeling myself getting angry at people where normally I would rather be I'm not showing up how I want to show up. And so when I can feel that and in myself, that's when I know I need to take a break. Do I always know? But I try. Because when I don't, usually my response, the things that I start doing are not the choices I would make if I was in a regulated state. And so then when is it time to go back? When I can feel myself being more regulated again, when I've gotten the anxiety calmed down, when I'm not feeling that like heightened emotion, when I can feel like, okay, I can manage if somebody comes at me showing up the way I want to show up. Sometimes I misjudge that, but that's what I try to look for.
Yeah, beautiful. I love that response. And I do think just the self-awareness piece is very helpful in moments like these. As we wrap up our episode today, I want to ask one last question of everyone, which is, what is next for you and your business? Share a little bit with our audience about what they can learn about you. Melissa, we will start with you. What's next for you and your business?
Okay, this is a good question, right? Because I've had to think about this over this year, and I hate to set lofty goals just for basically my own ego. So what you can expect from me is for the rest of this year is probably more speaking opportunities and those coming to light. So you will see me attend some conferences, speak at some conferences for the rest of the year. And for, I guess, the future, really, I would love to grow my ad membership. And also, so that's kind of in the works right now, relaunching the ad membership, which is Ad Traffic School, and then focusing on the agency as well. So just kind of like revamping up the scale and growth of the agency as well as the ad membership. So those are kind of like the two offers that I'm really dialing in for the next couple years.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. I will put the links to everyone in the show notes at onlinedrea.com/319. Lennox, over to you. What's next for you and your business?
I've been one of my key principles online and in my own community as well is just transparency. And I love that distinction between transparency and privacy that we were talking about earlier. And for me, part of that transparency is just letting everyone know that one of my goals is to be in the top 100 ranking on the school community platform. So that's definitely what we're working towards as something that we're going to move on to over the next few months. And then I am currently building out a high ticket version of the free community now, and that will be called Saints Circle. So watch this space.
Awesome. Thank you, Lennox. Jereshia, over to you. What's next for you and your business?
Yeah, this is the first time ever in business where I'm only focused between now and the end of the year. So big thing for me this year is really just focusing on supporting private one-on-one mentorship and business coaching clients. So helping individuals who really need help, maybe rethinking their business model, restructuring their offers, improving and refining their messaging, restructuring their internal operations and their team. So just private one-on-one coaching is the priority of focus this year. I'm hosting an event in October, really like intimate mastermind for multi-6 and 7-figure business owners. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then after that event, so come November is when I'll do some strategic planning for next year, which I think will still be a mix of private one-on-one and group coaching. And just, I've shifted my podcast to focus on seasons versus like ongoing forever weekly episodes. And you've been Becky talking about taking breaks. I've been learning a lot about how to not self-abandon and overextend myself. So I'm wrapping up a season of the podcast right now, and then we'll launch another season of the podcast in the fall. So that's what's on my plate right now, and still reading some good fiction books. So if anybody has any good recommendations, send them my way, please.
That sounds like a Threads post right there.
I know. I should go put that on Threads.
I love it. Thanks, Jereshia. Becky, what's next for you in your business?
Well, Jereshia, if you like rom-com romance, I have been dabbling in that area, which is new for me because I have always been I do like, lots of nonfiction books, business and politics. So this has been new, but it's been fun. So I'll send you some recs on Threads. So what's next for me? Well, I have my podcast, Feminist Founders. The next season's getting ready to come out very soon, which I'm very excited about. Season 3 will be coming out because I switched to seasons 2, Jereshia, after learning that lesson the hard way. And in support of that, or before that, the newsletter, I have a newsletter on Substack by the same name, Feminist Founders. I am going to be launching an audio series event. So it's a private audio series. It'll go on a private podcast feed for paid subscribers. Andrea is one of the people that participated in that. There's like 30 amazing speakers talking about all sorts of facets of business and decolonization and those sorts of things. So I'm very excited about that. That's coming out very soon too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Becky. And thank you, dear listener, for tuning in to another episode of the Mindful Marketing Podcast. The links to all of our amazing guests, including their Threads accounts, will be in the show notes, OnlineDrea.com/319. Next week, I'm going to be back with a hot topic from a user-submitted question all about the link in bio. Is it on its way out? You got to tune in next week to hear all about that. In the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe to our show. Your ratings help keep us in the top 100 of the marketing podcast, and that's all due to your support. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back soon. Bye for now.